We just built the very best guitar we could. It's the one I've always played, the shape, kind of updated the style of it a little bit.
For years, fans have tried to decode the secret behind Dimebag Darrell's explosive, unmistakable sound. He didn't just play guitar, he attacked it, bent it, screamed through it, and made it howl with a fury that felt alive. Pantera's riffs became the backbone of an entire generation of metal, and Dimebag's solos turned him into a legend long before the world lost him far too soon. But buried beneath all the noise, all the distortion, and all the raw aggression, there was a secret. A truth that even die-hard fans didn't fully understand. Because the man who transformed metal guitar wasn't shaped by metal alone. Dimebag Darrell finally revealed his 10 favorite guitarists, and the list shocked everyone. Not because of who's on it, but because of why they're on it. These weren't just musicians he admired. They were the architects of his soul, the fingerprints behind every riff he wrote, and the foundation of the sound that made him immortal. From the guitarist who inspired him to pick up his first six-string, to the bluesman whose phrasing seeped into every bend he ever played, to the virtuoso whose discipline taught him that emotion mattered more than speed, Dimebag's top 10 weren't chosen for popularity. They were chosen because each one changed him forever. And in this documentary, we're going inside the mind of the man who reinvented metal, to uncover the 10 guitarists who shaped him, and the unforgettable stories behind every name. Get ready. What you're about to hear will change how you listen to Dimebag Darrell forever. Before Dimebag Darrell Abbott became the explosive, razor-sharp force who revolutionized metal guitar, he was just a young kid growing up in Arlington, Texas, an environment overflowing with music but empty of fame, pressure, or expectation. His father, Jerry Abbott, owned a small recording studio, and that space became Dime's first playground. While other kids played outside, Dimebag wandered between cables, amps, and mixing boards, absorbing everything like a sponge. Music wasn't a hobby, it was the atmosphere he breathed. But there was one moment that changed everything. The one spark that set the entire future of metal ablaze. When Dimebag was a young teenager, he discovered Kiss, and more specifically, the man who would become his very first and most emotional guitar hero, Ace Frehley. Dimebag later admitted that Kiss wasn't just a band to him, they were larger than life. And Ace Frehley wasn't just a guitarist, he was a superhero with a Les Paul. Dime would stand in front of the mirror with a tennis racket pretending to be Ace, dreaming of one day playing solos with that same cosmic swagger. It wasn't technique, theory, or perfection that first inspired him. It was the feeling of it. The showmanship. The electricity. Ace showed him that guitar could be fun, wild, and unrestrained. And that sense of joy, raw, unfiltered joy, became something Dimebag carried into every note he ever played. Then came the moment that locked in his destiny. After practicing tirelessly for months, young Darrell entered his high school's Guitar Wars competition. But there was a twist. When he arrived, he found out his older brother Vinnie Paul had also entered the drumming contest. If Dime won, Vinnie couldn't collect his prize because siblings weren't allowed to win both categories. So Dimebag made a choice few teenagers would make, he purposely lost the contest so his brother could win. That single act said everything about their bond. It was the beginning of a partnership that would define Pantera, define metal, and ultimately define Dimebag's life. The guitar became Dime's voice, but Vinnie became his foundation. Every riff, every breakdown, every explosive moment was built on the chemistry between those two brothers. But Dime wasn't only shaped by family and rock idols. Texas itself molded him. The state is drenched in blues, from dusty bar rooms to late-night radio stations, and the blues seeped into his style long before he ever picked up a solid-state amp or a Dean ML guitar. He grew up listening to ZZ Top, especially the smooth, swagger-filled playing of Billy Gibbons. Dime didn't just admire Gibbons, he studied him. The bends, the warm vibrato, the attitude dripping from every lick. Even when Dimebag became a full-blown metal titan, you could still hear that Texas blues DNA buried under the distortion. The way he bent a note just slightly too far, the the way he slid into phrases, the way he let certain notes hang, those weren't metal techniques. Those were bluesmen instincts, remixed into something heavier, faster, and more violent. By the time Dimebag reached his late teens, he was already a monster player. He practiced constantly, sometimes for 12 hours a day. But the influences that shaped him were not just the ones he listened to, they were the ones he felt. The ones that made his heart race. The ones who showed him that the guitar wasn't just an instrument, it was a weapon, a voice, a lifeline. And soon, he would discover the guitarist who transformed his world more than anyone else, the man who made him believe the impossible was possible. While Ace Frehley and Billy Gibbons lit the first flames in Dimebag Darrell's young heart, it was Eddie Van Halen who turned that spark into a wildfire. Dimebag didn't just admire Eddie, he obsessed over him. Watching Eddie play wasn't a casual hobby, it was a study in innovation. The lightning-fast tapping, the harmonics, the way Eddie's fingers seemed to defy gravity, all of it became something Dimebag internalized. He wasn't trying to copy Eddie note for note. Instead, he absorbed the idea that a guitar could speak, scream, and wail in ways the human voice could never. Then came Randy Rhoads, a guitarist whose blend of classical technique and metal aggression resonated deeply with Dimebag. Randy showed him that virtuosity wasn't just about speed, it was about composition. Every solo had a story. Every riff had emotion. Dimebag often credited Rhoads with teaching him to balance technical skill with heart, a combination that became his signature. The bluesmen also remained a guiding force. Albert King and Freddie King, two kings of a different kind, taught him the raw emotional power of a note. Albert's heavy bends and Freddie's fiery attack weren't just techniques, they were philosophies. From them, Dimebag learned that a guitar solo could punch you in the chest and whisper in your ear at the same time. Those lessons stayed with him, embedded beneath the distortion, shaping Pantera's crushing riffs with soulful nuance. Tony Iommi, the pioneer of heavy metal riffing with Black Sabbath, added yet another dimension. Iommi's dark, powerful chord progressions gave Dimebag the blueprint for heavy, groove-driven riffs that could dominate stadiums. He combined Iommi's doom-laden power with his own Texas blues feel, creating a style uniquely his own. Dimebag also drew inspiration from guitarists outside of the metal world. Jimi Hendrix, the musical alien, reminded him that the guitar could be playful, unpredictable, and endlessly expressive. Even in metal's chaos, Dimebag found ways to incorporate Hendrix's fluidity, bending notes, adding squeals, and crafting solos that seemed to defy gravity. And then there were the modern influences and peers who pushed him competitively. Zakk Wylde's pinch harmonics, Michael Schenker's soaring melodies, and Ritchie Blackmore's intricate phrasing all became elements Dimebag borrowed, twisted, and amplified. He never played like any of them exactly, but he learned from every single one. Dimebag often said that studying these guitarists wasn't about imitation, it was about building a vocabulary. Each player taught him a phrase, a technique, a way of thinking about the instrument. By combining their lessons with his own imagination, Dimebag created a sound that was instantly recognizable, vicious, melodic, emotional, and utterly electrifying. And yet, despite all these influences, the driving force behind his style was simple: emotion first, technique second. Every pinch harmonic, every whammy dive, every bending scream from Dimebag's Dean ML or Washburn was a testament to what he learned from these titans. He didn't just play guitar, he told stories, and the voices of Eddie, Randy, Hendrix, and the rest were woven into every scream of Lucille. The final step in Dimebag's journey? Taking all these lessons and forging a list of 10 guitarists who weren't just idols, they were the architects of the sound that would make him immortal. By the time Dimebag Darrell reached his late teens, he had already absorbed the technical brilliance of Eddie Van Halen, the melodic mastery of Randy Rhoads, and the soul of the blues from Albert and Freddie King. But his influences weren't only about riffs and speed, they were about heart, attitude, and what it meant to be a guitarist who could truly connect with listeners. One of the most important names on his top 10 list was Tony Iommi, the man who invented heavy metal riffing. Dimebag didn't just admire Iami's power, he admired his resilience. Iami had lost the tips of his fingers and still reshaped the guitar into a weapon. That lesson went far beyond notes. For Dimebag, it was a blueprint for creativity under pressure, a reminder that limitations were nothing compared to imagination. Then there was Billy Gibbons, whose Texas blues swagger and warm, distorted tone influenced Dimebag from day one. Gibbons taught him that phrasing and personality mattered more than technical perfection. Dimebag took that lesson to heart, blending groove with aggression so that every note felt purposeful, even when it was chaotic. Ace Frehley, the man who inspired him to pick up a guitar in the first place, remained a constant reference point. Ace's cosmic style, playful energy, and showmanship informed Dimebag's stage presence. Every solo wasn't just about sound, it was a performance. Every bend, squeal, and dive bomb was theatrical, almost like storytelling through metal. Jimi Hendrix, though outside the metal world, contributed another dimension. Hendrix's ability to make the guitar speak emotionally, whether through feedback, bends, or wah-wah, pushed Dimebag to explore expressiveness. He combined Hendrix's melodic freedom with metal aggression, creating solos that were both technically explosive and deeply human. Dimebag also cited Ritchie Blackmore and Michael Schenker for their melodic phrasing, showing that technical mastery could coexist with storytelling. These players taught him that even in shredding, the solo should breathe and communicate, not just impress. Then came Freddie King, whose fiery Texas style and aggressive picking gave Dimebag lessons in raw energy. Every pinch harmonic, dive, and staccato riff borrowed some spark from Freddie, but Dimebag dialed it up to 11. Zakk Wylde, a close friend and modern peer, influenced him in two ways, technical and philosophical. Zakk's pinch harmonics and aggressive attack inspired Dimebag's own signature techniques, while Zakk's dedication to blues roots reminded him that even in extreme metal, the foundation should always honor the past. Finally, Dimebag's list included Robert Johnson, the legendary bluesman whose phrasing, emotion, and storytelling transcended genre. While Johnson's style was worlds apart from Pantera's groove-laden metal, Dimebag felt a spiritual connection to his playing. Johnson showed him that emotion should always lead technique, that every note mattered, and that music could speak across time. In Dimebag's eyes, this was the true meaning of influence, not copying someone's style, but absorbing their essence. These guitarists shaped his hands, his heart, and his approach to the guitar. From their techniques, stage presence, and emotional depth, he forged a style that was instantly recognizable, raw, and yet deeply expressive. By studying these 10 heroes, Dimebag didn't just become a guitar god, he became a bridge between generations. He took everything he loved, learned, and felt, and turned it into something that no one else could replicate, the soul of metal, screaming through the strings of Lucille. When Dimebag Darrell finally revealed his list of 10 favorite guitarists, he wasn't just naming influences, he was giving the world a roadmap to his soul. Each name reflected a lesson, a philosophy, and a piece of the fire that made him one of the most iconic guitarists in history. Understanding these heroes is the key to understanding Dimebag himself, a musician who combined aggression, precision, emotion, and showmanship into a sound utterly his own. At the top was Eddie Van Halen, whose technical brilliance and fearless innovation taught Dimebag that limits existed only in the mind. Eddie showed him that tapping, harmonics, and bending could be revolutionary, but more importantly, he showed that the guitar could be a voice, a screaming, expressive instrument. Every pinch harmonic and dive bomb that became Dimebag's signature carried the echo of Eddie's audacity. Randy Rhoads taught him the marriage of structure and emotion. Dimebag didn't just learn scales from Randy, he learned how to tell a story. Every solo needed a narrative, a rise and fall, a connection to the listener. That classical precision mixed with metal aggression became the blueprint for Pantera's unforgettable riffs. The bluesmen, Albert King, Freddie King, and Robert Johnson, provided the emotional core. They reminded him that technique without feeling was meaningless. Dimebag's bends, vibratos, and phrasing all came from listening to the blues, learning how a single note could convey joy, pain, or fury. The soul of his playing was born here, beneath the distortion. Tony Iommi and Billy Gibbons shaped his riffs. Iommi's heavy, doom-laden chords gave Dimebag a foundation for creating crushing riffs, while Gibbons' Texas swagger added groove and personality. Combining the two, he developed a style that was at once brutally heavy and deeply expressive. Dimebag also honored modern peers and rock innovators. Jimi Hendrix and Ritchie Blackmore taught him melodic freedom and dynamic control, while Michael Schenker and Zakk Wylde showed him that technique could serve storytelling, not overshadow it. These lessons allowed Dimebag to play solos that were technical marvels yet emotionally raw, connecting instantly with audiences worldwide. But perhaps the most important lesson he absorbed from his heroes was intangible: the courage to be himself. Each guitarist on the list showed him a different way to express individuality, whether through tone, stage presence, or sheer fearlessness. Dimebag's sound, his persona, and even his choice of gear reflected these combined lessons. He didn't imitate, he synthesized, creating a voice louder and more unforgettable than any single influence. Dimebag's legacy isn't just in the riffs he left behind, it's in the way he inspired a generation to feel deeply, play fearlessly, and honor their influences while forging their own path. Every note he played was a tribute, a conversation with the giants who shaped him. And even years after his tragic death, that conversation continues. Guitarists across the world study his solos, dissect his tone, and carry forward the lessons of his 10 favorite heroes. Dimebag Darrell wasn't just a guitar player. He was a living testament to the power of influence, passion, and innovation. His 10 favorite guitarists didn't merely shape his style, they built the legend we still celebrate today. And through that legacy, every note of his electrifying sound echoes across generations, immortalizing the man who learned from the best, then became the best himself.